Welcome to the Mind of Business Success podcast. I'm your host, Alicia Kramer. Today we have with us Nichole Howson. She is a social media management and virtual assistant company owner, and we're going to talk about the businessy side of business and getting people's marketing out, getting the support that they need to grow their businesses. So first and foremost, Nichole, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Okay. Start out by telling us about your business so our listeners have an understanding of what it is that you do.
Yeah. So I started my business 7 years ago, actually, this month. So we work with other businesses and even other social media managers or online marketers to support them in their online marketing efforts. So creating content for social media, responding to comments for them, all that stuff that business owners know they need to do, but they just don't have the time to commit to doing it. We take that over. It's always great when we have social media managers reach out to us and they're like, hey, can you do my social? Well, I do everybody else's. It's very common. So it's a big push. And then last year we actually moved over to virtual assistants as well, a little bit. So doing a little bit of that here and there with some of our business owners that we're working with as well. So like email marketing and organizing your Google Drive. I mean, I have a VA that does that for me, a huge time saver. So just random things like that. We have a team of 15 people right now, and we're all global.
Awesome. Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about those important but time-consuming little tasks that many of us are guilty of not doing efficiently, not doing effectively, some cases not doing at all. Mm-hmm. So there's obviously a reason that we need these things done. What are your thoughts on it from your perspective as a business owner who has seen a need in the marketplace for this type of service? Why does it even matter?
Yeah. Because especially right now, everything is online. It's the number one thing that people need. And oftentimes it's the first thing to go when the things get tough. I need to cut back on what I'm doing. I'm going to cut back on my marketing. It's the exact opposite of what you want to do in that situation, because that's how you're going to get more clients, or that's how you're going to get the exposure for more people to learn about you and buy from you. But that's the first thing to always go. It's the first thing that people put on the back burner and, I don't really have time, I'll do it later. And so we see that. And I know even for myself, there was times where I was like, I'm so busy, I'm just not going to do a big push. And then a few months later, I'm like, what have I done? Because I didn't have leads coming in anymore. And then all of a sudden it started to hurt. So we see that all the time. And it's definitely something that we teach other people to say, hey, don't do this. But also we'd like to support other people and help them with it as well.
You're talking about the very, very common feast or famine cycle in business. Absolutely. Obviously, when a company is big enough that they have marketing plans in place and they can be consistently bringing in leads and customers and clients into the business, it's not so much of an issue. They've already, to some extent, built out that element of consistency in their organization. But for a small business owner or a solopreneur, these are oftentimes the people who need the consistency the most, because they don't have those big advertising budgets where they can just, plug money into Google or Facebook ads or whatever, so when, and I've heard this a lot, I've been in business a long time myself as well. And I actually got started in the online marketing world back when it was like the Wild West of internet marketing. So back in the early 2000s. And it's interesting because our society really conditions us to expect like an instantaneous result. Marketing, smart marketing, effective marketing promotes, we have a quick fix solution to all of your problems. And so we've all been kind of brainwashed into thinking that that's the way that the world actually works, when in fact, a lot of times people are finding out the hard way that that's not the way that it works, and that you have to be consistent, and that you're not necessarily going to be able to put out one ad or one really amazing post and then the customers and the clients are just going to start flooding in. Mm-hmm. So when you're working with your clients, how do you address that? How do you help them to understand that, you know, we're posting stuff consistently and you're not necessarily always going to see a direct return on investment for this post or that post or even 10 posts, but over time it has this cumulative effect?
Yeah, absolutely. That's one of the things when we're working with clients, we talk about, if you're looking for a quick fix, I'm going to go viral, I'm going to be famous, and that's how it is. We're probably not going to work with you. We're just, or we're going to set you straight. That's not something that we're going to likely do. Whereas we're really focused on building relationships with your audience and them getting to know you. I think that was one of the biggest things that I really focused on, especially when I first started. I wanted everybody to kind of know me and build those relationships. So that way it's easy when you are looking for new clients, you can put a post out there and people are like, oh my gosh, I was just thinking about you the other day, or I follow you. And so it's a really great way, but it takes more. I've been doing this for 7 years. And it takes more than a couple weeks for that to happen. You have to build those relationships and put lots and lots of value out there first, or people just don't listen. Nobody follows accounts that's like, hey, I have a sale here and this is what I'm doing here. And nobody cares, to be honest, unless you're giving them something, and then they're going to follow you. They're going to engage with you because they're getting something out of your content.
You just dropped a bomb. Nobody really cares. It is the harsh truth. And a lot of people really resist that. And our egos are really good at throwing us off in the weeds, because a lot of times people do have this idea in their head, well, if I'm just really, really, really good at what I do, if I really have a high level product or service, people are just going to want it. It's obvious. It should just be so obvious. They should be throwing their money at me, when really people don't care. You have to make that connection. You have to somehow help them to see with a level of confidence and certainty that you can solve whatever their problem is. Mm-hmm. So I want you to talk for a little bit about, how are you helping your client? So I know you briefly touched on this. What are some of the types of things that you do? But I'm really curious, like, how do you really help your clients with this whole social media game?
Yeah. So there's a few things. The first thing that we try to make sure that we're doing is having them be consistent in their social and showing up, being visible. We'd like to, one of the good feedback that we like hearing is people will be like, oh my gosh, like I didn't realize they outsourced their social media. Of course you didn't. That's our job. You want them to be like, oh my gosh, you're posting all the time. I see you everywhere. And that's kind of the feedback that we'd like to hear back from our clients. So being visible and being consistent are a really big piece of it. Saving them time. A lot of times, because people aren't living in the world of social media day in and day out, they don't spend as much time perfecting their systems. We're very efficient at what we do because it's all we do. So we have our systems in place. We know how to be most productive. And so we do that. So we're saving a lot of time and effort than the average person would. And then just literally saving them time on things like, oh, I need to do lead gen. Oh my gosh, like if I can save you an hour a day, imagine what you could do in an hour a day working on your CEO roles while somebody else handled little tiny things that you don't need to do. And so that's where we get the most joy out of it, is when clients are like, oh my gosh, I just landed 4 new clients and I never could have done it if I was doing all these other things. It's exactly what we want. That's why we're in business. So being able to see our clients scale and grow is really important.
That's awesome. Do you help then come up with the content, or do your clients have to provide you with some of that content?
It really depends. The best situations is when it's partnered together. And so it's kind of a little bit of both. The more personal photos or personal videos that we can get from the client, the better it performs, because it's them showing up. It's their faces. So video is really one of the biggest things that we try to ask for, is getting video from you. If not, we do make some video, very, very minimal amounts, but we do create videos if we have to. And then just we create the captions and the copy and the graphics, and that sort of thing. So it really depends on how involved the client is and how much they want to grow and how fast, because the more involved they are, the more growth we're going to see right away.
Got it. And if a client comes to you and they don't really know what kind of stuff should be posted on their behalf, do you help them to identify that so you can build that strategy out?
Absolutely. That's exactly what we do. Even if they kind of have an idea of this is what we'd like to do, a lot of times we save that conversation until the first call, when we've brainstormed all the things that we can do for them. So you can take both of those things, because they might have been doing their social media for the last 3 years, but they're missing a big gapping piece of something that we're going to see because we're not living in their business. And so I know even adding new team members to my team, sometimes they're like, what does that mean? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it didn't even occur to me that somebody wouldn't know what that is. And because we're so integrated in it, and that's what our focus is, doesn't mean everybody else understands what we're saying.
For anyone listening who's thinking, oh, this would be nice, this would be great, but I'm not there yet, can you share with them a couple of maybe helpful tips, things that they can start doing with their social media presence to build that brand awareness?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there's a few things I would recommend that they sit down. I've been known to sit down for a couple of hours and do a month's worth of content, and just literally bulk creating content, posting at least 3 times a week. And I really don't care what day you do it. You can look at your analytics and see what days are best to post based on your audience, but getting out there and being a little bit visible, the more you show up, the better. I love the idea of 1 day a week doing a video, even if it's jumping in, doing a Facebook Live or an Instagram Live and just chatting with people. Showing up like that is going to be really important. You can do, honestly, any business could pull off like just posting a quote every Monday for Monday motivation, or doing, we call it the 80-20 rule. So 80% of the time you're providing value. So like tips and facts and things like that. And then 20% of the time doing a promo. So even if you did a mixture of that, every business can benefit from this, especially if you're talking directly to your customers.
Awesome. Love that. And what are the social media platforms that you predominantly focus on?
So Facebook and Instagram are big too. We do a little bit of Twitter and LinkedIn, and TikTok for some people. So that one's really fun, but we tend to do TikTok and Instagram Reels interchangeably. So it keeps us busy, but it's a lot of fun.
Let's shift gears a little bit, because you also offer virtual assistant support. So talk to us a little bit about that. Now, most people who've been in business for any length of time they understand what a virtual assistant does, but there may be, somebody listening who's like, what does that even mean? So let's start there.
Yeah. So a virtual assistant can be, honestly, it could be anything you really wanted to. I have a full-time VA, and she does random stuff. Like, she looks for job opportunities for me and podcast interviews for me online. So she looks those up and sends me a list every day, so I can just go through and apply to them. I don't have to spend hours scrolling. Uploading videos to places or photos, scheduling your social media content. It takes a lot of time to do that, especially as a social media manager when you're managing so many accounts. It's a lot of scheduling. Having somebody else to jump in and do that for you saves a ton of time. Lead gen, like I mentioned, essentially it's like having a full-time or part-time assistant, like you would in person, but they can be located anywhere.
When I hired my first virtual assistant, it was magical. It really, I think a lot of times you don't realize how many things you don't actually need to be doing. Mm-hmm. And then once you start to really experience the value of delegating tasks, now you can start to see how there's so much more that you can actually do in your business when you don't have to try to figure out how to do it all yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to pivot a little bit here, and I want to talk about you as a business owner. Mm-hmm. So you didn't just land in business and have a successful company.
No. Not even a little.
Yeah, well, I had a feeling you would say that. So can you share with us, what is something in your own mindset journey as a business owner that you had to overcome?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that I had to overcome was the scarcity mindset. And so I, for the longest time, was like, I have to work all the hours, I have to be available all the time, I have to take on every client. And so I was so aggressively involved in my business that I ended up burning out. I had no boundaries for myself. I was working till 2 or 3 in the morning and then getting up at 6 or 7 to work again. It just wasn't realistic. I was spending no time for myself. So when I burnt out, it took some time. I lost a lot of contracts, or they ended and then I didn't refill them. And I took some time to kind of reevaluate my life and what that would look like. And so I made rules, like I don't work past 6 p.m. every night. So I'm done work at 6, whether I'm ready to be done or not. But it's really great because then I can wake up earlier if I need extra time, or if I know I'm going to have a busy day. But I find I'm even more productive now when I know, okay, at 6 o'clock you have to wrap up. So I'm not scrolling through social media randomly throughout the day, or wasting time doing other things. So that was really good. And then getting through the mindset of, I don't have to work with everybody. I don't have to take every call. And so I literally made an application form. When somebody wants to work with me, they fill out an application form now and they apply to work with me. And it was a huge shift for me. As soon as I did that, I went from being on like 20 calls a week to being on 3 or 4. But then instead of landing 1 client a week, I was landing 3 or 4 because they already knew what to expect. I knew that they were a good fit. And so it was really just having a conversation and ironing out details versus jumping on calls with people that really weren't ready to work with me at all. And I was wasting their time and my time.
Those are really, really, really good takeaways. I mean, we could segue off on either or both of those. And what you just shared, I think everyone can relate to some degree. So I'm just going to reiterate real quick, because you use the word scarcity mindset. Mm-hmm. Now, a lot of times people immediately think that only refers to money. Mm-hmm. But it's more than just money. It's that feeling of deep insecurity.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you don't take every client, or if you don't take every call, or if you're not working, ridiculous amounts of hours, and you forget why you even want to be in business in the first place, which is for your freedom to do what you love. And we start to lose touch with that. And that is a really big mindset shift. I remember for me, back when I had my brick and mortar hypnotherapy practice, which was many, many, many years ago, I received a client on my landline back then. And I could tell something was off about the woman. And my inner guidance was like, no, 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 no. Don't go there. Don't do it. And my scarcity mindset said, but I need the money. Can't turn any clients away. And so I scheduled her, and now she's in the office, and she's literally sitting right next to me. And I'm doing my initial intake process with her. And it became very, very, very obvious that she was schizophrenic. And I remember thinking to myself, what did I just get myself into? Because that was outside of my scope as a hypnotherapist. And that was a really critical turning point for me, when I realized no amount of money can ever be worth me compromising my integrity or my inner guidance ever again. And when I shifted that, it was a game changer for me. Mm-hmm. Because my standards were raised, my self-esteem was raised, and I started to attract better quality clients. I started to make more money. Like, it was really a significant shift. And a lot of times people don't realize that it's those little things that you're still holding on to. You've got to let that shit go.
Yep.
It's not going to get you to where you want to be. And then you'd also mention about boundaries and taking care of yourself. And all of that ties in to that scarcity and self-love. And you've got to start to have like that heart to heart with yourself, and be like, okay, what do I really want in my life? What do I really want in my business? And is what I'm doing in alignment with that? And more often than not, it's going to be a really obvious no. And then you've got to start to make some changes. Mm-hmm. Nichole, can you tell our listeners how they can connect with you?
Yeah, so we're on almost every social media platform. So you can look me up. My personal account is just my first and last name, Nichole Howson, or you can look us up at AIM Social. And then you can find all of our information on our website. So it's readyaimsocial.com. It's the easiest URL to remember. And we'd love to chat with anybody and everybody that reaches out to us.
Awesome. And you serve clients all over the place.
Global. Yep.
Okay. Absolutely perfect. Now, before we wrap up today's episode, I want to give you an opportunity to share with us any final parting thoughts.
Ooh, I love this question. I think the biggest thing that I could say, especially because we're talking about mindset, is one of the things that I've had to learn is do it scared. Even when it's scary, go ahead and do it. Take that step. Obviously, follow your inner guidance and everything like that. But sometimes things hold you back because you're just like, oh, I don't know if I'm good enough. And that's almost always the reason why you should do it, because it's so great when you get through that. So do it scared would be my advice.
I love that you said that. And I really, really, really love that you clarified that, because there is a distinction between your inner guidance and fear.
Yeah.
And when you can recognize that your inner guidance is saying yes, and it's your fear that's saying no, your fear, you can let go of that. You can overcome the fear. But if you don't say yes to your inner guidance, I just challenge people to really think about it. If you say no to that opportunity that you're being called to do, whatever it is, to up-level yourself, to up-level your business, right? You've already identified, I want more. And now you're being given opportunities to get there. And if your inner guidance is saying yes, and you're letting fear stop you, are you going to regret it?
Absolutely. Yep.
Excellent conversation. Awesome way to end this segment. Thank you so much, Nichole. This has been fantastic. A lot of valuable takeaways. So with that, thank you, Nichole.
Thanks for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe. We have so many incredible experts, great conversations, transformational content.